Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. We could start with just a fun question. So maybe in the chat or in the Q&A section, you could tell us where you're calling from, your office, your home, your car, your city, either way, anything you like. It's always fun to hear where people are calling from. So just either in the Q&A section or in the chat. And if you're joining us, just I would love to hear where you're calling from, whether it's your car, your city, your home, your office. Okay, great. The office, great. I see some cities, Redford. Thank you for that.
Welcome, Yolanda. Thank you for dropping that in the Q&A. Glad to have you here from Redford, Michigan.
Waterford, very cool. Tom.
Anyone else want to put in the chat where you're from, where you're calling from, your office, your car, as Faris said, home? Okay. Joanne here from Detroit. Nice to have you. We're going to get started here, guys, in roughly about 7 to 8 minutes. So we just started off with a, hey, Frank, glad to have you here. We just started off with a fun question. We just want to allow for a few more people to trickle in, and then we'll go ahead and get started and kick this thing off. All right, Judy, all the way from East Lansing. Hello.
We have a contest. Who's calling from the furthest?
Yeah. That's right. Go blue.
Is that because we have someone from Lansing? That's not
yeah.
not friendly. But we always have to be, fun, don't we?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. No, this will be a fun, impactful hour today, guys. All right, Brandy from Detroit. Okay.
Tyler, I'm sorry, we will not be able to promote other activities and links that we are not sure where they're coming from. So cool. I think we got almost everyone claiming where they're calling from. Should we?
Yeah, let's go ahead. I'm looking at the participation here. We'll go ahead in the effort of time and respecting those who were here on time. We'll go ahead and get started, Faris. We do have quite a bit of people on right now. So the stragglers can trickle in, and if they miss anything, obviously this is recorded, so we'll be able to provide that to them. So good morning again, everyone. My name is Aisha Maxwell. I am the Entrepreneurship Program Manager for our Business Development Program here at Access. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with Access, we do have someone here from Lansing. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with Access, but Access is a regional human service agency based right out of Dearborn. We just celebrated 50 years this year. We started in the south end of Dearborn, and really Access was started to help Arab Americans gain their footing as they landed here in the United States. And since that inception of Access 50 years ago, we've grown to be so much more than what we were then. Obviously, our core demographic of people that we support are the Arab American community, but we also work with anybody in Wayne County. Myself, Aisha, my team member Jay, who will be on here shortly, and my other colleague Linda, we run a business development program here at Access that is focused on elevating entrepreneurs, helping you reach a level of growth that you may have not received here, or if you're looking to start your business, you're just in that ideation phase and you have a thought about what could be a prosperous business, we're here to help you hone that thought. And so we do that by way of educational workshops like what we're doing today. We have 2 signature cohort-based trainings that we do with Faris and his team. And then myself, Jay, and Linda also do one-on-one business coaching. And so we coach from a 30, 60, 90, and 120-day goal plan, because everyone is not in the same position. Some people may only need 30 days worth of coaching, another may need 120. And so our goal is to really help you develop your business plan, or if you have a business plan, maybe strategically pull out pieces that are going to lead you to a greater success, and then set you on a growth plan. And so that's pretty much what we do here within Access, within this group. But we do have a whole host of other wraparound services through our social service office, as well as our workforce development team. So again, Access has been doing this work in the communities for 50 years. We're happy to have you guys on board. We're happy to have you if this is your first time attending any of our workshops. We'll have plenty more coming in 2023. And we look forward to connecting with you. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Faris and let him get started with this very impactful social media presentation. And again, thank you all for being here and taking time out of your morning to join us, because everything that we do here at Access and with our partners is to make sure that you have the educational tools and resources that you need to grow. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Aisha. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, the entire Access team. We've been fortunate to have been with you since the beginning, and it's always
Yes.
amazing to watch how it's evolving and continues to grow. So congratulations on all the success. And I was lucky enough to be there for the 50th anniversary and see such a big impact. I don't know, 2,000 people were there. That's incredible.
Yes.
Incredible. So congratulations. All right, let's jump right in. So, we're gonna talk today about, I don't know if you could, I think everybody could see my screen. Maybe you could in the chat say yes, or in the Q&A say yes. All right. So what I'm gonna do is just jump right in, just so we could have enough time to discuss all the things that we need to discuss today. It is a fully packed agenda. So we're gonna talk about online marketing, specifically social media things. So my name is Faris Alami, and we're going to be talking specifically about digitalizing your story, or digitizing your story. Depends who you talk to or who you ask. There might be some recommendations of the word usage, and we could talk about that today. So our agenda, just so everybody in the same page, we're going to do a little bit of welcome and intro, and we're going to do, which we started already. We're going to do digitizing or digitalizing your business and how that works. We're going to talk specifically about your story online and how you could leverage the social media. And I'm going to talk about a few tools that are available for free, and some obviously you could pay for, but many are free that you could use to advance your business. We could talk about next steps or what else you could be doing. I'd love to just in the chat to fun fact about, fun fact about you. And then maybe if you want to tell us, what do you do? Like, you're on a business, you're on a restaurant. I don't need 5-page resume. I'm looking for, like, I run a restaurant. I run a retail store. I run a training company. Whatever just a one-liner, a 2 words description, and then one fun fact about you. You love swimming, you love travel, whatever. Just, maybe total 4 words. You could use the chat for that if you'd like, or the Q&A section. And I'm going to keep moving forward with this. I'm not stopping, but I'm just asking to get your insights about what do you do, and fun fact about you. What do you do will help me understand what you want to get out of today's sessions, and what fun fact will help me do is try to relate some of the messages via the channels that you might enjoy for fun. All right. Cool. So there are lots of ways, by the way, to digitize your business. And we're not going to be able to cover any of, all of them today. We're going to specifically talk about something specific. So you can see that you could digitalize your operation, you could digitize your sales and marketing, you could digitize your finance, you could digitize your market, your HR, you could digitize other things, processes within your company. There are lots to talk about when you're talking about digitizing or digitalizing. Okay, what I want to focus on today is really, and even within the realm of marketing, there's website, there's social media, there's email. We're going to focus a little bit on the social media aspects of it and the website. And that's really our energy where it's going to be spent. Excuse me. We could clearly spend a lot of days and a lot of hours. And as you know, people get bachelor and master's and PhD degrees in any of these specific topics. So the goal would not be to do that today. What the goal would be is to give you enough information so you could move forward with some of these concepts, some of these ideas, and allow you to engage, access, services in other ways that we could help and support you to unfold some of these ideas with you as well. By the way, thank you so much for answering the questions. You see we have a doctor already, we have consultants, we have all kinds of people in this call, so we appreciate you being here with us, and that helps me because now I understand what you're trying to get out of this conversation. So to digitize your story, I think one of the things that I learned really quickly, for those who were able to get big impact, having studied them and then having worked with many of them, is that they all had, I'm going to call it a strategy, because a lot of times, people think without a strategy you could move forward. I'm not saying that you can't, you can. It's just these things will help move forward the ideas much faster. The consistency of how often and when you post and how you post and where you post, and then taking time to reflect and study what happened are really keys before you start repeating the strategy, the consistency, and the reflection. And the reason I say that, because sometimes we just want to jump in and post, which is fine. I think that's great that you could do it, because for those who've watched any of our, podcasts or online training or anything like that, I always say, you got to start. That's the first thing you got to do, start. I also encourage that you should think about strategy that could help you move that start a little bit better, at least in a different direction than just shooting in the dark. Okay. So let's talk about that. Before I jump in, I kind of told you what we're going to talk about. I'd love to hear from you in the chat. What are your expectations, or what would you like to get out of today's discussion? It can be 6 pages. I'm looking for, one thing that you would like to get out of today's discussion. So I'd love to hear in the chat or in the, Q&A section, what would you like to get out of today's discussion? I kind of covered the agenda. I kind of covered what we're going to talk about specifically. And I'd love to hear from you. What would you like to get out of today's discussion? Obviously, I have my own outcomes, which we're going to talk about in a second, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. All right. Okay, cool. Well, I see that people still writing about what they do and one fun fact about them. So I've moved now to what would you like to get out of today's session? A better understanding of the strategy. Cool. So we're going to talk about that. So here's the first thing you want to do to create a strategy. These are not necessarily, the only 8 steps. This is not the only, following that you need to do, but this is I usually say to get you started. Okay. You might want to think about the different audiences that you have. And by the way, you will have variety of audiences. Doesn't mean that you are not wanting everyone to welcome to your business. Everybody's welcome. I'm just saying, who are the different audiences that you will go after to make sure that they're engaged with you in a conversation? And you may have couples. So for the doctor that's trying to create a direct care, you might have a family that you want to go after. You might want to go after individuals, singles. Now you might say they all want the same. Sure, they all want doctors for sure. The difference would be is how they go about it, what they think about it, what kind of words you use to market to them, what kind of things you show and pictures you to help them engage with you. So these are the things that you want to think about. So the first question before you create your strategy is think about who are your audiences? Who is your audience? Now you might have multiple, like I said, but think about 1 to 3. It doesn't mean that everyone is not welcome. Everybody is welcome, but these are the 1 to 3 audiences that you will think about going and making sure that they're engaged with you. The second thing you want to think about when you're creating a strategy, what messages do you want to pour out there? Okay, I'm going to use in a second ISM and what we have done just as a reference point, but it's not necessarily for you to follow it. It's just what we have done. You want to think about what you could do. Think about what messages do you want to give. So for the doctor, like I said, the more I know about who's here, the more I could use it as an example, right? So for the doctor to say, all right, I want to go after families. All right, so what's the message you want to give? Taking care of your family versus individuals, not sure where to start. Maybe different messages, maybe similar messages, maybe different images, maybe different same images. You want to think through all of those things because message is going to be coming from you. Then you want to think about where do you want to post these ideas, right? Because, Facebook maybe for some things is good. You might want to think about the different audiences that Facebook has. You might want to think about LinkedIn. Do you want to post some of these things on LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever platform you want to use? Think about where do you want to post these things, which leads you to, which platform do you want to use for that? Okay. Because you might tweak some of what you post on LinkedIn to post on Facebook, or what you might post on Facebook to be on Instagram or anything else like that. So think about these kinds of ideas. This is part of your strategy. The last few things I'm gonna talk about here is frequency. So now you want to think about, do you post once a day? Do you post 3 times a day? Do you post 1 every hour? I caution you, because what I've seen in the past, people get so excited after this, a call like this or a call somewhere like this with someone else, and they're so on fire and they're like, I'm going to post 5 times a day. And then they'll do it for about a week. And then they'll go down to about 1 time a day. And then it'll go about to 1 time a week. And then it'll fade slowly to maybe once a month. I'd encourage you, before you start thinking that way, is to really think about what's realistic for you. So maybe right now, once a month, maybe right now, once a week, maybe right now, reposting other people's posts. You don't even have to create your own, just reposting some other people's posts that you like, or articles that you enjoy reading, or references or resources that you want to promote, right? And think about the strategy you want to come up with, because how often will create, I'm going to call it the momentum that you need to have a social media present that will create followers. And then you want to think about, if you do have someone that you want to promote, how often do you promote them, right? So you got to be careful, because if you're promoting an idea of yours or promoting someone else's idea, people watching you online, that's what they do. So now they're thinking this person is always selling, or this person is sharing good information, or this person is trying to engage us. This person is looking for what, right? So your messages that you create will create a reflection of who you are in your brand. And this is why I suggest that you come up with a strategy first, so therefore it could reflect on what you're doing, okay? Anything else from you guys? I'd love to hear. What else can you do when you think about a strategy? So we talked about create an audience, create messaging or messages that you want to, reach to these audiences. Think about the platforms and think about how often you want to do it, right? These are maybe the high levels information what we covered right now. I'd love to hear from you in the chat or in the Q&A. What other strategies have you considered when launching your social media programs? All right. Uh, I'm going to dig deep into each one of these ideas here so we could just elaborate a little bit more. And then we're going to use an example of what we have done to observe. So we post, for instance, ISM, we post minimum once a day. This is our schedule. We have a schedule actually we follow, and we've been following it for almost 4 years now. It's a steady schedule. We might have modified every year because we re-examine, and it doesn't mean that we don't post more, because occasionally we do post more, but there is a consistent messaging that goes out every single week for different theme that we have, and I'll go through that in a second. You want to think about that, like multiple times a day, which means what? That means you might want to think about having a tool that will help you post that. Weekly, maybe you could do it yourself. You don't need to have someone else managing it. Monthly, you probably could do it yourself. Quarterly, you probably could do it yourself. And I would suggest is think about the year now, because we're already in December. You could think about next year. All right, so we got January through December. What themes do I want to post about? What ideas I want to post about monthly, weekly, or just quarterly, even in the beginning? It doesn't mean that you can't post more, but it just means that this is the foundations of the basics that you're going to move forward. Now, of course, you could ask a strategy question. Absolutely. So be consistent with your posting. That would be my insights for you to follow with your social media. And then reflect and adjust. By the way, Thomas, please feel free to put your question in the Q&A or in the chat. Aisha here or Jay will interfere and ask the question or interrupt. Or if I see it, I will also answer it. You want to make sure that you're watching what people are liking or not liking, you want to make sure that you see, are they engaged or not? Are they reposting? Is it organic, or do you need to boost it, or you need to place an ad, right? These are things that you want to think about as you reflect on some of these concepts as you post them. And then, there will always be a reason why not to post today, because you will have interruption, you're going to get busy, you're going to find all kinds of things. My insights for you is to really make sure that you, no matter what happens, that you post. And this is why I say create a system in place for posting. Keeping it simple is key, because I've seen others say, well, I'm going to use this platform. Well, you're going to have to learn the platform. And for you to learn the platform, that means you're going to spend more time, right? And then it might also need that you might have to upgrade, because the free, platform that you got will only allow you to post once a day, and now you're going to post 3 times a day. Well, you got to pay. And for you to pay and not use it, it'll be just a waste of time and energy. So think through these things before you keep going forward with it. All right. And then, of course, post where, right? That's the concept here. So LinkedIn, ISM, for instance, we have several pages on LinkedIn, from my personal to the business to the certificates that we give to other organizations that we have created. Same thing with Facebook. Create a fan page, you can create a company page, you could create all kinds of things. So think about all these things, and when are you going to post for what? Okay. Let's just walk you through what we have done, and hopefully this will inspire you to think about questions you could ask, what you could do. So here's one simple way that we created for people to follow us and connect with us online. These are all hyperlinks. Obviously, this is a presentation not meant for us right now for you to click on it, but just for you to see kind of like what we're talking about here. I cannot chat with the group. Not sure why you can't chat. Let me see. Recreation. It looks like everything is active, the chat and everything else is on. So I'm not sure what's happening. It has a full control reflection. Nothing is disabled. So I think you could. Okay. Let me see if I could change that. A lot. More questions. Yeah, it's all open. I'm not sure why it's not letting you do that, Aisha. I'm sorry. right. I'll try it again. I'll see everyone. Try it now. Save chat. All right. So it should be able now to do whatever you want. Sorry about that. All right. So let's dive in. So what are some of the tools that are available? There are lots of tools out there. I like to use Google tools just because I already, for those who are using Gmail, most of it is free. You could use it. For those who are using it for your business, so like Google for your business, and you have an account, so your email is at your domain at, your name at your domain.com, and you're using Google email system or Microsoft system, then you will have it. I'm going to talk about those tools right there. Then we have some, of course, ISM, some of our technology, our own, that I will also share with you that you could, take a look at. Out in the world today, there are lots of tools. I'm not going to be able to cover all of them. I'm basically focusing on the G Suite, but I do want you to be aware that Office 365 and others like it, they do have similar tools. I just don't know them as well as I know the G Suite, just because we've been using Google Suites for a long time. All right. So one of the things we have done is taken what they call Studio, so Google Studio, and you could create that one for free. And basically, it takes the data that it's already collecting from your website and converts it to kind of like a visual aid to help you understand. So in this slide, this is, as you can see from the data that we collected, it's telling us where are people coming from to visit our website. Now, this was a snapshot that was taken from March in one day, in 1 year, sorry, from March 1st, 2021 to March 1st, 2022. And that's kind of like what people came to our website in that 1 year. These are the different spots. The bigger circles just means that there are more people coming from those spots. That's one example that you could take the time to reflect on. Where are they calling from, or where are they coming from? Then, of course, you could have a list of those countries specifically, so you kind of like see what's going on. So for instance, in this case, we had over 15,000 visitors from Indonesia. We've done few programs in Indonesia, and it seems like they've gotten some good attraction, 15,000 of them. Egypt, we've done few programs there as well. And then I would go back and try to see which month we got these visits. But for now, trying to give you the bigger vision here, we had over 8,000 visitors with an average person 22 seconds on the website, which is a long time, by the way, for a web visit. And then the US is the third position, and that's, with almost 6,200 people. So this gives you an idea of where people are coming from. Now, another thing you could look at here, just by quick scan, is also how long are they spending time on the website, right? So you can see like some of them spend, in the United Kingdom, we have someone that spent 2 minutes and 20 seconds. That's a pretty long time when the average duration, average session, that means someone stayed there for 10 minutes, someone stayed there for a few seconds, but the average was about 2 minutes, which is a lot when there are 700 people that spend that kind of time on your website, right? So you start learning, is someone studying us there? Is someone trying to learn about us? Is someone trying to engage us? We don't know, right? But this is kind of like the ideas that you can get from what you're putting out there from your posts. Then you could start thinking, from this website that we have, and remember, I'm talking about the websites now. This is part of your social media presence, that you have a website. What pages are they visiting more than others? Because we have, a few pages on our website. So I wanted to know which page are they visiting versus which pages are not getting visits. And you can see here that the Resilient Entrepreneur Program pretty much dominated all three categories in the page title that they visited. So that means a lot of attention from my perspective that gives me insights that people are looking for programs like this all over the world, right? So that gives you this insights that you now have based on real data from your website. So this is what I mean, like you put something out there, you post it, and then you reflect on it, right? And you study it, and now you can reposition things. We see that they're obviously interested in some other things, but that was their number one. And then it looked like, they're interested in our about page when they went to the MyISM Inc. page. And then it looks like, a lot of people downloaded the report. So if I look at the top 10 things, it seems like they're looking for what we've done, one of our programs, our team, and then a little bit about ISM and how to reach us. Those are like the top 10 pages that were visited in that year. Gives us a lot of good insights about what we could put out based on this data, right? So now I'm going to take you to another program we have, which is a podcast that I put out. It's called the FinGen Show. We started it actually last year, 2020. So it's been 2 years now. So in this, as you can see, it's completely different. It's different people, some similarity as far as the countries, but not as much as concentration as overseas as it is in the US. So these are the great insights that you can gain to know, all right, why is that happening? Well, it's probably because I'm doing it in English only, right? Our website is translated to a few more other sites. So these are good insights that could help us redo some of these things. In this, what's called the studio, you could actually also dig a little deeper. So I'm digging deeper here so you can give you an idea. So total watch time of the FinGen show was almost, I don't know, 1,000 hours was watched, with 85,000 viewers watching it, because we do it also on a podcast. And now I could go and see which podcast did they really listen to. And as you can see, it's now building on what we have believed, right? So we know that they're looking at the resilient. If I go to my podcast, they're also going to the podcast and the resilient. It's a different brand, it's a different entity, it's a different website, but they're finding it. So that means they're searching for these keywords. They're also looking for the Power of Seven, which is a marketing strategy that we launched a couple of years ago, and now we have a book on it. So these are insights that are giving us to see, all right, what our people are looking for? What are they, looking to engage? What kind of information are they seeking, right? So that's important for us to kind of like understand from this data that we're collecting. Then when you looked at the YouTube channel itself, then we noticed that there are about 13 hours was watched with over 1,000 people seeing it. And that gives us an idea. And again, you can see like they watch the Power of 777. So that tells me, all right, there's interest there, right? And then the canvas, by the way, is our resilient canvas. So it looks like they'll just keep flipping back and forth between marketing strategies and resiliency. So that means there is probably a big demand in the marketplace around these topics. Now you could use this data for those, for instance, a doctor to say, hey, you're trying to stay resilient with your health, right? So you could use some of these buzzwords to get attraction to your site, to your information. And then I could dig deep and actually see what exactly they're looking for within that podcast. So now I could go and see, all right, which podcasts they listen to the most. And now I can go day by day. All right, on October 1st, looks like we had 30 listeners that day. That must be something that they really like. Now I can go back and see what did we release that day. Now I could build more on it. I hope that this is giving you an idea of how you could leverage the social media from posting, from the strategy first, then to posting, then to reflecting, then to building on what you're seeing. Those are tools that I just showed you, by the way. All of them were free. This is all from data collected from Google. And you could do it, even if you don't want to do Google Studio, you could do it just with Google Analytics. And you can just get the same data. It just won't look as pretty, right? It just will give you the data in numbers. I liked it to visualize so I can see where they're coming from as far as, spots around the world. But again, that takes another step, and it's free. It just takes your time and energy to learn it and then to do it. Now we have our own, tools. So this is one of them. So this gives me like, from a perspective of how many impressions any of our pages had. Now I can go back and see, all right, these are, this page had over 604,000 impressions. It engaged 13,000 and it led to about 300 people. So now I have a data that I could build on, knowing that if I wanted to get 300 people as leads, collect their email address, collect their phone number, collect whatever, right? This is what leads mean for us. We collected some kind of data on them. Well, that means I would have to spend some kind of money to get 600,000 impressions to potentially get 13,000 of them to potentially get 300 of them to do something. Now you might say, first, can we improve that? Well, sure. We kept playing with our, for instance, our pages, as you saw. We renamed them. We came up with different ways to engage them. So you could start playing to say, all right, maybe what they're seeing as far as image is not as good. Maybe the messaging that we're saying is not as good. Remember all the things that we talked about first? The messaging, the audiences. Maybe I'm sending this message to the wrong audience. Can I change the image? Can I change the wording? And those are the kinds of things that you could do to make sure that you're reflecting on this. We have another gauge that tells us, like, how is our website doing as far as listing. We're not doing that good, but we're not doing that bad, right? We're getting a score of A for now, 407. I think, there are 419 or 420 points that you can get. And basically it's scoring us on how fast our pages are loading up or not, and how long people stay on the page or not, or is it engaging or not. So this now gives us insights about our own media, social media that we put out there. I also have another tool that we use when we post things. So we post, as you know, on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And this tool kind of like gives me daily, weekly reports. And this is kind of like a snapshot of, all right, we have about 10,000 followers that follow us. There are about 86,000 people that are talking about us, meaning that they either saw an image, reposted, made a comment, or something like that. And these are as you can see, the different accounts that we have: 3 on Facebook, 4 on LinkedIn, 1 on Twitter, 1 on YouTube, 2 on Google Sites, and 2 on Instagram. So that's important to kind of like see what how we use that data to help us engage more people. In this platform that I use, that we utilize, it tells me like exactly what cities are they coming from and what countries. And again, this allows us to retarget, reposition, we change the ad to speak a different language. This actually, based on this, we translated our websites to Arabic and Russian based on the trends that we were seeing at the time a year ago. Back in March of 2021, to see like what else can we be doing to engage more people. We also notice when people are engaged with us. So we now know that, on Friday at 5 a.m., we get a lot of engagement. Why? I don't know. Maybe because we have people overseas, right? We also get it a lot on around 11 o'clock, 10 to 11 or 10 to 12. It seems to get a lot of engagement almost any day of the week. And maybe because it's lunch hour in the US, but it's also dinner time, the rest of the world that we are interacting. So this is good data for us to say, this is when you want to post. This is when you don't want to post. This is when you're getting engagement. And as you can tell, we've tried different times that we posted, but this is where we're getting the most engagement when we post these times. All right. Here are some of the samples of our posts. As you can tell, we try to keep them organic. And I could tell you that we have noticed that the minute I put my image, like my face or someone's face from the team, we get a lot more engagement than when we have someone else's image or a generic post or anything like that. So you can see to the left, we had 41 comments, 6,000 views, and then the next one we have 700. And that's one of the things we learned, that people like to see us, the team, ISM team. When we have a post that has an image of any of our team members, we get thousands of images and hundreds of engagements. When we use a generic one, we get sometimes maybe 1,000, sometimes a little bit less. My point to you here is, no matter what we do, we don't stop. We just keep going, right? So it's important to remember that. I could keep going for hours, but I wanted to give you a little bit of time for questions and answers. So if you want to go ahead and take a minute, and before we go to anything else, we could stop right there and see if there are any questions or comments. No questions or comments? No questions or comments? I was budgeting about 15, 20 minutes for a Q&A, but you could put your questions in the chat. stop sharing. So we could just hear some of the questions. Thank you, Judy. So the question is, as a single member owner, how do I determine the best platform to my business? I would go back and ask the first question I asked. Who is your ideal audience? Based on that, you will go and find where they are. So if your ideal audience is 55 or 50 to 65-year-old individuals, most likely Facebook. If your ideal audience is 12-year-old to 22-year-old, most likely TikTok, right? I'm not saying that you're going to like my answer. I'm just saying you're going to have to figure out where they are to attract them and get them engaged with you. Okay. Also, you can't do much, for instance, if you do something on Twitter. So Twitter is just 144 characters. So you would need to understand who's engaged there and how you could drive them from there to somewhere else, right? So understanding how these things work together is really key. So I hope that answered your question, Judy. The first step is determine where your audiences are, or where would you like to attract them from, and then determine which platform to use. I usually suggest at least multiple platforms because you might not know, or you might be surprised of who you're attracting. You might think 55 to 65-year-old should be your ideal customer, but you might discover that actually they're not. It's the 25 to 45. I'm making that up, but just to give you an idea. Okay. What's the best vehicle to get your potential clients out to you? The best vehicle is to make sure that you're engaging them in a conversation. If all you're doing is just putting ad there after ad, buy from me, most likely your customers might be turned off. Now, again, depends on your customer, but most likely they will be turned off. Where you might want to think about information sharing. So maybe some information that will help them, inform them, and then sometimes selling, it's okay. Some, it's, again, this is personal preference, but think about how you could engage them. So putting in, a message out there to ask them for a question or feedback, probably more engaging than if you just say, buy this from me now. What are some of the things you should avoid when posting on social media? I personally avoid as much as you can just hardcore sales. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work, and it doesn't mean that I haven't seen it. I just personally think it can bring your brand down, but that's my personal humble opinion. At the end of the day, you need to ask for a sale, because if you don't, then no one will buy because they don't know that you're wanting a sale. I would just say just avoid, cheesy hardcore sales when you can, if you can. If you have to do it here and there, I guess you have to. And that would be my insights about what you should avoid. Avoid putting negative messages out, because when you put negative messages out, I'm not saying that it doesn't work, because fear of missing out. I'm sure you heard of this terminology before. FOMO is real and it works. I just think that when people recognize a month later, a week later, or a year later after they buy something from you, you put FOMO, fear in them, meaning that you put a fear in them for them to buy from you, and they realize you could buy any other time, or they don't have to get it right then and there. Most likely you're going to get some, customers are not happy, versus if you just be honest about what it is and how it works and when to get it and when not to get it and things of that nature. I mean, obviously there are some things that if you make something for limited time, or you can only take so many clients at a time, you should articulate that. But watch out, if you just keep doing that every day, then at one point your customers might think, is this a show or is reality? Yeah, sharing videos is really key. Thank you for sharing that, Frank. Yeah, sharing a video, sharing a pic, what you're doing is also really key. It usually gets a lot of engagements. As you saw, I posted something with me doing something. People love that, and it got a lot of impressions. And I would say 99% of the times, whenever I post something with my headshot or a person from the team, when we did like a goodbye party or welcome someone, those usually get the most engagements from everyone else. Anytime when we use, although I blog every week, when I use the stock image, it just doesn't give as much impressions or engagement.
A question, Faris.
Yeah.
So impressions are considered engagement. So, like you may post something, let's say LinkedIn, for instance, because I don't really know any other platform.
Sure.
But you post on LinkedIn, but you might not get any likes or comments, but then you get a notification from LinkedIn that says your post has reached, 108 views,
Yep.
tag someone, or is that actual engagement? Is that actually someone looking at your post?
Someone looked at your post. So when it says 108 impressions, that means someone saw it and didn't do anything. That's, by the way, typical. I mean, when like, for instance, I just showed you one of my
Yeah,
posts. It had 7,000 roughly impressions. That means 7,000 people saw it. And, I think at the time, I think it might have had 41 people commented. I might have had
okay,
a few hundred people, 700 or 1,000 people liked it. So you have to put in consideration that not everyone will see it, will do something. Some people are not active in these social media.
Yeah.
They're just out there browsing, but they're really not active. Don't expect to get everyone who sees it to do something.
Okay,
I would say usually about 0.03% of impressions will lead to
engagement.
activities, or engagement of some
Mhm.
kind, whether it's like
Okay.
comments or, a couple of weeks ago, I had someone call me and say, I saw your note on LinkedIn. I'd love to talk to you about it. They never liked it. They're not even, I don't think beyond me connected to them, I don't think they have anything on their LinkedIn. So sometimes it just leads to other conversations and it's hard to track all of it, but it's good for you to be aware of it.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, and obviously this data was a little older. I mean, I think right now my LinkedIn alone has almost 8,000 followers just on LinkedIn alone. When we did this, LinkedIn had only, I think, 6,000 or 4,000 back in March of this year. So we're consistently building. And, I get people who say, well, why don't you just buy them or get someone to just do something to get a lot more? I could potentially probably do that, get 100,000, followers. My impression, those usually are really, I could tell that they're fake accounts because they'll get 100,000 followers, but they still don't get more than 5 likes. Well, I'd
Yeah,
rather know who those people are or where they're coming from or get engagement with them than just having numbers to have numbers.
makes sense.
I'm sure at one point make a difference, but not now.
Looks like Jay has a question. What are ways a person could distinguish themselves in marketing without blowing a marketing budget?
Yeah, I mean, so just to give you guys an idea, none of our things that we did, we have a budget for. It's all being done by my team
Mhm.
without spending any dollars. So I think be consistent, come up with a strategy that says makes sense to you. So once a day, once a week, once a month, and just be consistent with it. I think you'll get much better results that way than if you're trying to just get ads out. Occasionally we do place ads. We have done like a couple of videos out there. We really have not been able, personally have not been able to make them be more successful than what we wanted them to be. We still get more success with our generic organic posts. All right, I'd like to do one thing now. So now that we're coming, I'd love to hear from you guys, just one word about today's program so we could come to closure. Of course, we still could take a few more questions for those who are interested in asking more questions, but maybe one word for today. Would love to hear that. Just put in the chat, one word. And then for those who are interested in giving us feedback, you could use your phone to take a picture of this. Well, actually not take a picture, use your camera and it'll take you to a link that will ask for feedback. Would love to hear your thoughts, good, bad, ugly, anything you want. I would really appreciate that you taking the minute to do that. And those who are interested in staying in touch, you could use your phone again to download my contact information. I want to thank you for being with us, making the time and the effort. And I hope that that gives you some insights about how you could strategize and implement social media presence and digitize your story and really engage your audiences and keep them engaged with you. I'll be honest, it took a minute for me personally because I'm a person who like to be quiet and like to be in the background. And putting messages out there took me almost 10 years to start putting private messages about my personal journey out there. So you have to gauge what your comfort level is based on what you're doing. Just know that the more I started posting about the reality of what's going on, the more I got engagement from my audiences and the more they wanted to hear more. When I was trying to hide behind a shell, they were engaged, but they were not engaged as much. All right. If we're good, I think we could conclude. Would you like to promote any other programs, Aisha, that are coming up?
Yes, I threw a link in the chat. We do have a workshop coming up on January 17th. Most of you have probably already received our notification for our next banking meeting that we're having with PNC on the 12th. But I think it's very important as the meeting that we'll be doing on January 17th with the SBA, with the Meet the Lender, will be a very full event. And so I am allowing for pre-registration for people to go ahead and get registered now. So I did drop that link in the chat. Again, please give Faris your feedback. It's very crucial for us to understand what you gain from the workshops that we bring forward in order for us to tailor things to your needs. Moving forward, especially as 2022 has been a hard year for most businesses. And as we move into a better year in 2023, we want to make sure that you have the necessary tools, the guidance, the resources, the programming, that you're capital ready going into 2023. And so the surveys that we give out and distribute and the feedback that we ask is only to help us better help you. So again, Faris, thank you so much for being such a great partner to Access. Our team really appreciates you. This was a great, and I like simplicity. It makes it really easy to understand. So again, thank you everyone for your time today. And I hope you have a great rest of your week and a great holiday if I do not hear or speak to any of you in the coming weeks. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a good day.